Episode 87 of the BIC podcast. And on this episode, we will not talk about $700 Wendy's bill. Although, maybe at some point, if there's a Patreon, we can have some after hours conversations because, man, there was content gold there that you will not get a chance to see right now. However, we do have some other stuff. We will get back to business. It is a recorded episode again, so we've got some other business we'll touch on. We've got a couple of fun cards to share with you. We're going to talk a little bit about, we'll touch on a couple more things related to the national from the vlogs that I watched. There's a couple of takeaways that I have, so we can touch on that briefly. And then the main topic I think is going to be talking about Fanatics Collect and the exclusive deal they have with Burbank sports cards. I did make a video on it, and a lot of people had a lot of comments on it, so a lot of engagement, so thank you for that. There are certain comments on certain themes that I thought were kind of interesting, so I think we've got a couple of things that we can discuss. That and more on this episode of the BIC podcast. All right. So first of all, before I even get into anything else, I will say that I've been kind of enjoying following one of the eBay accounts that I follow on a regular basis, and we'll be talking more about eBay here in a minute. But one of them has been slowly selling off a lot of nice Medano cards, and it seems without fail that a lot of them go for way more money than I thought. I actually had a snipe set as we were talking, and no, that snipe would have been blown right out of the water. Like it wasn't even close. Not even. I'm like, who the hell is paying this much for this stuff? Like, geez. Okay. So anyway.
That's a good outlook for you, though. I mean, on the rest of your PC, maybe not to get the card you want to complete, but
yeah, clearly, I'm leaving a lot of money on the table. Maybe I should sell some of my shit to these people. Like they're clearly willing to pay more for it than I am. Good lord. But anyway, okay. So a couple of things I want to touch on, and we'll let me do a couple of observations on kind of the national. Obviously, none of us went to the national, but that doesn't stop us from critiquing and commenting just the same. However, I did watch a lot of national vlogs, and I enjoyed them. So thank you to the folks who made those. That was a lot of fun checking it out, and saw a lot of different things, a lot of different angles related to it. Now, there are certain specific themes, though, that I thought were kind of funny, and some of them actually touch on some of the stuff we have talked about on the podcast and on the live stream. And one of the things is, Eric, the coping is strong, and the justification is strong. The justification is legendary. It's been kind of fun watching the vlogs where there are certain specific things that came up a lot. And I think Theo Clemente Collector did a good job encapsulating it because he did kind of a winners and losers video. And on his winners and losers video, he touched on some of the specific things. One of them is apparently parking was a disaster. Getting in and out of the convention center, apparently not enough control in terms of having some kind of a presence to be able to direct the flow of traffic. Unfortunately, that's just a consequence of where they were relative to it. Good reviews for the inside of it. Apparently really busy, really full, which depending on your persuasion may or may not be a good thing. And, food truck selections and things like that, good. But at the same time, it created a situation where the theme of the day was lines. Lines to get to the food, lines to get in. Even if you're a VIP, lines to do this, lines to get your cars out of the parking lot, lines to get your cars in the parking lot. And it goes back to kind of what we talked about in the live stream, which is, and I'll come back to kind of the caveat, the coping mechanism on this, which, by the way, I'm going to say is legitimate in a certain way, but also at the same time, I was sitting there like, I enjoyed the description of it. It's like, all of this is terrible, but I had a great time. Oh, I believe you, but at the same time, like, it sounds like you're beginning to associate with your captor, sir. Like you're working too hard to convince me that Stockholm is strong here. But nonetheless, I will say that it was very entertaining listening to the breakdown of a lot of these. And apparently the accommodations were a complication. Some people had struggles with that. So it was very interesting to see kind of the different experiences there. But one of the key things is it goes back to what we talked about in the live stream, which is I have to, given the cost, given the exorbitant costs of travel, accommodation, and all the things related to it, the national now is very much a thing you have to plan out for. Well in advance, you have to plan out to have your budget in place and everything. But at the end of the day, it's a vacation. And the thing about a vacation is I like enjoying a vacation. And what I was hearing was everything but enjoyment of a vacation. And the answer to everything, the cure-all of the whole thing was, but I got to hang out with my friends. It's like, I believe you, man, but there's only so much. Like at a certain point, it's like, I got to hang out with my friends, but I was shot 14 times and stabbed twice, but I got to hang out with my friends. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, everything you're saying is true. That's just not a good time for me. We all hang out when we go up to the expo, and we all.
Are you sure you don't like my friends that much, Brandon? I ain't getting shot for any of y'all. None of y'all.
But I have plenty of time and freedom to move around the expo and see everything. There's not lines for the bathroom. There's very minimal lines for food.
There are also plenty of bathrooms. I think that was also another criticism of it, that apparently there was only certain specific places, and there were a couple ones that were hidden away. But the point is, it seemed like they didn't have the ratio down, so it still resulted in lines in certain instances.
You know, because we're 5% more mature. Like, listen, I love you, buddy, but I'm not driving 10 freaking hours and dealing with, you know, an hour to get into a parking lot, and then another couple of hours of standing in line to get into the building, to then stand on another line to go to the bathroom just so I can hang out with you. All right. That
And
is
listen,
not.
I want to express the same sentiment. I appreciate your presence at the expo, but I'm not walking across the parking lot. Like, we've all got standards, we've all got bars that we're gonna hit. Like, that's it. Like a parking lot, Brandon, the whole parking lot. Like,
Oh,
no,
Well-
fuck, I ain't doing it.
I kind of alluded to it in the Discord because I kept seeing, like, on Instagram reels and everything else, it was like these little shorts and videos of the traffic situation and everything, and I was like,
Still
That's been-
inappropriate, Eric. Still wrong.
it's the main
Sending the message again is not going to make it better.
the main
Have
topic.
you ever seen these pictures?
No,
Have they seen
don't.
those images?
No, and don't you send them
He
to
sent a
her.
group this time too, by the way,
this
Eric.
is-
I
listen,
mean,
Oh,
it's
shit, I
bad,
sent one to
man.
you too. Oh,
It's bad,
yeah.
man. The problem is you sent it to the group text with everyone, including your mom. I don't think your mom.
No,
needs to
my
see that
mom
either.
better not
Like,
be on that one.
It's not good. No,
No, my mom better not be on that one. She will throw me
Eric,
out
we
of the
can't
house.
make you trying to cancel yourself a segment. That can't be its own segment. Like, you got to quit this. You got to stop it. I'm going to look past your crass mistake again,
Okay.
and I'm going to talk about AMG Collectibles and AMGcollectibles.ca, the AMG Collectibles YouTube channel.
Yeah.
We will be back. I did hear from Blair, who apparently has been found from seclusion. He may have been hidden in a cave. He may have been trying to shield himself from Eric's unfortunate text message threads, like that no one wants to be a part of. But regardless, we will be back on that episode. We'll see. So the collector of the scouts, collector of the people, and myself will definitely be there for sure. Hopefully, cross our fingers. Hopefully, we'll see Sherry. And if she is there, maybe she can give us some insights from the National, because she and Brad were there. And Brad already reached the stage of exhaustion in the midway point, because I did message him just to check in and see how they were doing. But maybe we'll get a little update on that. And I'd be curious to see. And also, they had their trade night the previous weekend, the weekend of the National. So I'd be curious to see how the trade night went. So hopefully we'll get a little insight on that, so you can check it out. AMGcollectibles.ca, AMG Collectibles YouTube channel. We appreciate them supporting the podcast and the channel. So sorry, Brendan, go ahead. Before Eric interrupted
I
us.
was just gonna say, it was cracking me up, and like I said in the Discord, when I kept seeing the post after post about the traffic, I live near Northern Virginia. If I really wanted to go just enjoy myself sitting in traffic, it wouldn't take me that long to do so.
Right.
I wouldn't want to go on vacation or drive to an entire another state to sit and deal with traffic. That would have been, I would have been very, to put it politely, displeased.
Yes.
So it did not look that enjoyable.
Mm.
And it's also, does anyone else find it interesting? Now, I know there's a different level to card shows than like going out Christmas shopping or whatever.
Sure. Okay.
But has anyone noticed that so many things, especially over the last 4 years, have moved to online purchasing? You know, we can DoorDash now. That's become a popular thing. Amazon's blown up
Yeah.
even more. You know, all of these things, right? And I sat here during the National and I enjoyed my card purchasing from the comfort here of my home with my broken computer that didn't want to work with the live chat and everything else. But I'm not even a big ComC supporter, and I was able to rectify the situation of not purchasing Jason Robertson, and I bought a dozen cards during the National, and I didn't sit in traffic. So I'm very happy. I might make it a little thing where each week I go on there and purchase a few.
You did
We'll
mention
see.
his name, so I have to do at least do a couple of these.
Yeah, it's important. So let me touch on though what Brandon was saying though. And again, we're being 5% more mature here. So we will take a more serious approach to this. We will take a very scholarly approach to this. And it goes back to kind of, look, in all seriousness, it goes back to what I very much am glad that those that went that did have a good time and like were happy to hang out and everything. And look, thumbs up, good, glad to hear it.
Do it, Eric.
Yeah.
What happened?
The thumbs up.
The thumbs up, man. We got the thumbs up. Yeah, that's right.
Does it work
now,
still?
We were hoping. We were hoping. We figured we'd give it a shot. Anyway, the point is that that's a gag for the visual folks. The audio folks will get nothing out of that segment. But the point is this. The point is this. The vacation point is valid because, in jokes aside, it goes to a very simple concept. And I've given this analogy on the live stream before, but I'll repeat it again, and I think you guys will get what I'm saying. Your buddy calls you up and says, "Hey, you want to go grab a beer, or you want to go grab a bite to eat or something and chat a bit, hang out?" Yeah, sure, no problem. They're down the block. Yeah, easy. They're across town. Probably still okay. Maybe they're a town or two over, and you've got some time. Sure. There is a point though. If we stretch this far enough, there is a point. But they can be a super good friend of yours. Like they can be your best friend, whatever. I am not getting on a plane and flying to Abu Dhabi to go hang out and have a beer. There is a point at which the hangout we exceed the point at which now I have to work way too hard for what the payoff is here. Oh, but you don't want to hang out? It's like I'm not getting on a plane to fly 15 hours or whatever to do that. That's a bridge too far. In fact, we're several bridges too far. We've gone way past too far. So it's one of those things where the National, because of what it is, again, I watch a ton of vlogs. Not just from people in the YouTube community and all that, people who on the outside, the corporate side, every angle from it. What I saw was a massive humanity, which I'm not a claustrophobic guy. I don't have an anxiety disorder where big crowds bother me. I can handle that, but it's also not something I'm going to actively seek out. It's not something I'm looking for. And then I'm looking at people who are in line early. And again, I'm against mornings. Like, as far as I'm concerned, mornings are the devil. Like, I'm against.
Mama said mornings are the devil.
Correct. Exactly. The point is that we're already off to a bad start. So I'm not a morning. So you're telling me, even if I get up early for Lord knows what reason, I still have to get in line? I can have VIP tickets. I still have to get in line like the peasants? We're out. We're done. Shut her down. Brandon, shut her down. It's over. We're out of here. Not happening.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I even heard somebody say that there was no reason to have the early access tickets or whatever it was, because everybody was just crowding the door and bum rushing all at the same time anyway. So I don't know. Like, this isn't the first time the National has been held in Cleveland, so it'll be curious to hear over the coming weeks or so the thoughts looking back on it. Was this an attendance issue where it was way more people than they expected, or just the amount of people made it difficult to handle? Did they do something different than the last time? Because so many people talked about how great Cleveland was.
So that was pre the boom though. The last Cleveland one was before the boom. The building has had a couple of changes to it, from what I understand, because they had a Ferris wheel before, so they clearly don't have one now. So there's definitely been some changes, at least to some of the inside. I do think it's a capacity issue. I think it's I want to say it was Clemente Collector who made the point. It's possible that even though the IX Center is not a bad facility in terms of and by the way, the trade nights, doing them in the basement, not a terrible idea, because it did give you a decent floor space but even that was packed. Like, it was madhouse in terms of what they were reaching to the point where, like, the fire marshal could have stepped in if they had gone a little bit further on that. And it would have been interesting if they had tried. But you've got all those elements going against you. But I think where it became tricky is that I think it may have outgrown that facility. And it's more a testament to where things are sitting at right now. That's kind of my thought. So hang tight, and I'll come back in a second, but just some thoughts.
Again, I just, there needs to be that happy medium. Now, I said this last week, either on Monday or Friday, and some people didn't like that. I didn't like the idea. But if you need more room for the patrons, the only way to have more room for patrons is to have less tables. Now, I'm not talking have 10 tables and, and 100,000 people. But if you're going to jam tables into every little teeny corner and cover every little inch, and they're going to come out more and more and more into the walkways.
Well, Eric, the irony is that they had bigger walkways in Chicago and they had less tables. So they actually, because the space was smaller, so they actually didn't allow some of the previous dealers were on the short end of the stick. They weren't allowed to come. So they actually did reduce the amount of dealer tables, and they actually increased the size of walkways. The problem is the physical space couldn't house it. They did not have enough square footage, and they still had, it might not be a record, but they still had enough people inside of that confined space. It's more than the last time they went to Cleveland, way more. So they tried to squeeze them into a facility that was okay. It was good enough for what they were doing before, but now clearly not enough, not anymore. Now you basically are going to, which is forcing you into bigger venues. Chicago can clearly handle it, but it's got its own challenges, but it's better situated where you don't need to have food trucks inside because you can go outside. There's hotels, there's restaurants, there's things right on walking distance. So then this Donald Stevens Center, I think, is the one in Chicago. It doesn't have the same issue with logistics getting in and out. And also, if you need to go to the thing, you can literally walk across the parking lot, go outside, and go to one of the things around the building. So from that perspective, it's better situated, it's better set up to kind of hold this convention.
They got to come to Boston. We got a big enough convention center. We got plenty of parking, plenty of public transportation. We got to bring it to Boston. So I'll go, because I'm not going unless it's coming to Boston.
I think what we should do is, Brandon, if they ever do go to Boston, I have an idea. I think if they do go to Boston, I've already said that if we go to Vegas, Bobby and I will go. And by that, I mean, we'll ignore it and go to Vegas. But if they go to Boston, then what we should do, I've been to Boston twice and it was all right, despite Eric being there. Not there at the time that I was there, but the point is he was still physically there in spirit, which would have ruined things normally. But in this case, it was fine. The point is, I've been to Boston before. So what we do is we get lost in the turnpike a couple of times, and then we go to Boston, and then we figure out where it is, and wherever it is, we do a live stream from outside and never actually go in the building. Great coverage.
That works.
Yeah. Just saying, like, we don't actually have to go in. We can do national coverage. Like, the building's right there. Like, look, there's a bunch of people. You see those ants over there that moving one by one? Those are the people going in right there.
I'm 20 minutes away if there's no traffic. So you have to go maybe like around 2-3 in the morning and actually do that trip. But about 20 minutes away from Boston. We could after the show party at my house. And
you can get to play with somebody.
Eric's just claiming that he's got a mansion. He just invited. He's talking about the facility housing people for the national. He just said party at his house. Now, everybody, we want to make sure that it's very clear. Okay, we don't want no injuries happening with water hoses. Don't step on the grass. If you go to the after party, don't step on the grass. He will shoot you with the water hose.
No, don't park on the grass. You can walk on it. Just don't park.
Just be safe. Don't step on the grass.
There's some serious issues. All right, getting back to the point at hand. I think it is interesting. And like I said, I don't have an issue with it. So I want to make sure we put a button on it. And again, we're trying to, we're having some fun with it, but we're also going to try to be serious about this a little bit. And from that, I mean, is this, I get the idea that for a lot of folks, it was very fun for them to be able to gather. And I saw from the YouTube gathering, obviously they were able to hang out, but even that felt kind of cramped, which was kind of funny. It was like, it felt like it was a couple hundred folks squeezed inside of the space. And I'm like, okay, I get the idea, but this would maybe, and again, this is a me. I'm going to state right now, this is a me thing. Seeing that, I'd be like, wow, fuck that. Like, no thanks. Like I like having a little bit of space. I'm chatting with folks and all that, which is all well and great, but don't cram me in a relatively small space because you actually did fill it to the point that people were hanging around outside to kind of give yourself a little breathing room. And I'm like, Jesus, get out of here.
You want to know the other aggravating part that I assume happened at that space with the meetup is you're there to meet up and have conversations, but it is so loud that by the end of the night, you probably have no voice because
Yeah.
you've had to scream the entire evening to have a conversation. That takes kind of the fun out of it, I guess. But
Mhm. Well, I think it was funny because Maiko, I want to give credit to certain folks where I can. Clemente Collector had a good video doing the winners and losers, which I thought was a good summary. I thought a lot of his points were fair, so I want to give credit where it's due. If I remember, I'll link to it in the description so you can check it out for yourself. Mike O did some tremendous work, having a lot of videos. He actually was able to put together a lot of videos. Great credit to him. One of the ones he did, I think it was today. One of the ones he posted was from the YouTube get together, the meetup, and
I
he and
watched part
Garrett
of that.
literally. Yeah, and he and Garrett were literally walking. Now, here's the thing. It's cute in a way, but in the same way, I'm sitting there, presumably in this theoretical thing, talking to people, and I got somebody tapping me on the shoulder and like putting a microphone in my face and going like, "What's your channel and what do you collect?" Eric, somebody tries this shit at the expo, and then we're gonna have to. I'm gonna have to get you to stab somebody.
It's possible.
We ain't having it. Like
Not
it's like,
against
dude, it's like, dude, calmness. A little bit of calmness. Like you know, you don't need to stick a camera in my face at all times. Like I get the idea, but it's I know they're YouTubers, but it's like you don't need to stick a camera in people's face. Again, they were clearly okay with it, like so no problem there. But I'm saying like that would kind of piss me off. I'm not gonna lie.
I have only seen Jeff Wilson and his video crew at the expo doing that type of stuff. I have never been bothered or seen someone or heard it. I have not seen anybody. Now, maybe I'm missing it because I'm focused on other things.
And usually it's security that's following you with the camera.
Yeah, usually.
Yeah, just different connotation, but same concept. Just want to
And
make sure
they're
we
all-
make a distinction.
And they're like this talking and everything, and they're telling
Mhm.
Marcel where I am so he can go the opposite direction. So I think he's the one that's paying them to keep an eye on me so I don't bother him. But I don't know. I just don't see that in the expo of people walking around, doing one of these with their phones or
There are people that do that, but most like I think, and again, I do think so in the spirit. Wait, to be fair,
to be fair.
thank you. I think there is a difference where I think a lot of the YouTube community folks, when they get into one of those gatherings, I think there is more of a built-in sense of familiarity where they feel really comfortable like doing. At the expo, there's a bunch of us that know each other and we hang out and everything, but most of the people that I know at expo are not YouTubers. They're just collectors. So they're just hanging out and chatting or whatever. So they're not worried about the cameras or doing anything. They know that I do it and they're like, "Oh, do you want to take some footage or whatever?" So they ask me. And in turn, if someone comes by with a camera, "Hey, do you mind if we?"
And when we did ours from the expo, we were sitting in Bobby's booth, just the 4 or 5 of us, or whatever it ended up being, and we weren't out on the floor bothering anybody or sticking things in people's faces or we weren't we're kind of off to the side doing it ourselves.
Yeah, I just think it's a different vibe. I think it's there's a certain even like I said, even some of the folks that did have cameras, like they had camera rigs and everything, but they would be like, "Hey, do you mind?" "Yeah, sure, go ahead." "Okay." So they would take the extra half a second to be like, "Hey, do you want to be part of this? Is it okay if we because
Light
there were
expos
plenty of people
have that.
taking footage, but they were kind of making sure they kind of followed that little. It's a small thing. It's just ask, and a lot of them will be like, "Yeah, sure, go ahead."
I mean, I don't want to be on camera because there's people looking for me, but most people would be fine with it.
Indeed. So I think the biggest takeaway is that if you enjoyed it, glad for you. Hopefully you were safe travels back to your location. And alas, I believe that the national ban continues for another year. I believe that national ban will continue into 2025 and beyond.
Well, I mean, it won't be long and we'll get the Fanatics Fest. We'll get
That would have interested.
National Junior now?
I'm genuinely curious about that. I do want to see that a little bit. And as I said, I'll include a link to a couple of the ones in the description if you want to check it out. Some of them, again, some of the vlogs I think were really good. It was fun, kind of living vicariously through it, in the sense that I'm glad I wasn't there. Like this again, this is just me speaking only for myself. I'm glad I wasn't there, and because certain things would have pissed me off, just personally, just my sensibilities to it. However, it was enjoyable to observe it from the vantage point of being here and being able to be relaxed on my end and being able to kind of look in and go, okay, that's kind of interesting. Oh, that's how they did the trade. Okay, that's kind of cool. And stuff like that. I think it was good from that perspective. And again, I think the people that did enjoy it, I think hopefully they got a lot out of it. It seemed like some of them did. But yeah, the accommodations and all that stuff is like lines. We're not doing lines. I like to, even the folks that were like, oh, but we got the Airbnb and a bunch of us are hanging out. It's like, Eric, I pay extra. And by the way, all those videos reminded me to book my expo hotel early.
Yeah.
And I did. And you know what I have? Like 700 square feet to myself, Brandon. There's no one else there. It's all mine. Dedicated space for Carlos to not show up in the morning of the expos.
Well, since we're on the national topic, do you want
Sure.
to segue into the ridiculous cards? Because,
Yes.
spoiler alert,
Spoiler.
my card, I can't top last week and I lost
No,
the
no,
vote, so
listen.
whatever.
First of all, again, to repeat, if you guys check out, go back to last week's episode, Justice for Troy Dan. Justice for Troy Dan.
But
I hear you.
my card this week is actually from the national.
From the national.
One of the national promotional ones.
Ooh,
so
fancy.
It irritated me, but then there's a step further of why I think it's just absolutely ridiculous. So
We're
just
gonna get so many
if you wanna
comments
go into
now on
that.
us hating it. We're gonna get so many comments now on us hating the Nationals. Like, you guys need to be there. You don't know. It's like, I get it. Okay. I said like 300 times, if you enjoyed it, congratulations. I'm happy for you.
Oh yeah.
Like, great.
I'm not hating on anyone that went. I hope everyone enjoyed.
I like to think that we're
even my
contributing.
card isn't hating on the national, but you'll get why I picked it.
Yeah. I like to think, Brandon, that we are helping. I like to think that we're contributing to avoid the overpopulation problem for Chicago in 2025 by not being there.
Well, I mean, we were just talking about how many people are recording and doing videos, and obviously there has to be a lot of people not at the national to make it worthwhile to put videos out, because if you were there and you're going back to watch the videos, I mean, I guess some people might, but
listen, you could do reaction videos to your own vlog. You could do reaction videos to your own vlog. Also,
yeah,
I'm just saying, but also, Eric, who would do not national coverage and the annual not national live stream if we don't? If we don't do it, who?
I don't see how anyone else is up for the task, to be honest.
Honestly, it's a burden. It's a burden that I have to bear. It is my cross to bear that someone has to make the not national coverage, and I got this. It's mine.
Yeah.
All right. So here we go. This relates to the national. Brandon's got an item here, so let's take a look at what he's got here. This is for the video, folks. So please. Oh yes. Okay. This is greatness. So I appreciate this on levels. But Brandon, this is important. We need to describe what it is. So it is a Paul Skeens card. It's basically like Eric's Dream Come True, but with Paul Skeens. So can you describe what we've got here?
So this is one of, and I picked this one because America, and we got the flag and the eagle.
Yeah, Eric claims to be American, so here's America.
But this is the 2024 National Wild Card Auto Mania. Paul Skeens 1 of 1, and this particular one has a scope design to it with the bald eagle. I like the design in the background. Now, you may wonder, why did I pick this card? Well, as soon as I seen one posted, and I could not figure out why in the hell he is placed so far to the left on the card. It's almost like the whole select Wemby thing where it just doesn't look right. So that irritated me. And I went and looked at some others, and most everybody is placed centered in the card. Now, Brett Favre is off to the left, and I think there was like 2 other people maybe I seen.
Right.
Brett.
He didn't say it right.
My apologies. My apologies.
You're not going to play the game right.
But the part that I really want to also share here is behind here I have eBay, and these are the results for Paul Skeens wild card. Keep in mind, 1 of 1.
Yes, a handful, small.
Yeah, just a few of them.
For folks that don't have the
They
visual, there
really
were
got
44 results that
creative.
came up. There were 44 results that came up.
It was said 46. I think there were 6 of them that weren't this particular card.
Oh, 46.
But
Gotcha.
let's take it a step further because we know they're solds.
Mm-hmm.
I estimated at least 100 on eBay currently, and we are probably for certain that not all of them made it to eBay.
Well, Eric bought dozens of them already, so that's that.
One of ones, and we have over 100 different examples. What in the hell have we gotten to?
Now, I understand this is a national exclusive.
Yeah.
Who is Leaf behind this?
Leaf
This
owns
is
Wildcard.
wild card. So yeah.
Leaf, I think, owns Wildcard now. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah.
As only Leaf could pull off this crap.
Listen, that's an American bald eagle, you fake American. And this one has the Statue of Liberty on it. So start being patriotic.
Yeah, with the fireworks hyper hollow.
Exactly. You unpatriotic swine. Yeah. Nothing says America like a gigantic statue given to you by the French.
Yes.
America.
What is this one? Oh, this one has an eagle flying in the background.
Fantastic. Glorious. I think these should all count. If there's no justice for Troydan, there needs to be justice for Paul Skeens.
Here's more just this is fireworks scope.
That one at least looks nice. Look, that one looks at least nice. I think that looks cool. If nothing else, it looks interesting. I'll give it that.
Well, again, what first caught my eye was why did they put him over here like this? I thought that just irritated me. But then I was like, let me look at this further. And then I seen how many there were. And I was like, okay, if we're going to do ridiculous cards, this has to qualify. Because they're all 101s.
I'd agree.
So anyway, there's my entry for the week. I think it highly qualifies and an ode to the national.
I would agree. So this one, Eric, I'll let you go last on this one, but I've got one here that's going to fit into our main topic in a moment. So I want to do it now, but it'll fit into the main topic. One of the points that we're going to make here is we're going to talk about, like I said, eBay. We're going to talk about Burbank cards. We're going to talk about the whole thing with Fanatics and everything. But when we get into that, one of the points that I'm going to make, so I'm going to bring it back around after, but I'll show this and then we'll show Eric's and then we'll get to the point again, is that while there may be a lot of listings on eBay, including dozens and dozens and dozens of Paul Skeen 1-of-1s, dozens of them, while we've got that, we also have a lot of items that are priced in such a way that there is no chance in hell they will ever sell. They don't have the greatness and the majesty of Paul Skeen's 1-of-1s from the National. They're priced at a level that's like, it's you could just look at it and it ain't happening. But here is an example that I will give that gives you the ridiculous to go along with the ridiculous price as well. It's a full combo of things. So this is one of the most expensive things in the trading card category, but it's also a callback. So here I give you Topps Project 70. This is a Tony Gonsolin / Jonas Never companion with a Pog. Classic. Comes with a Pog. And it's got a bunch of cats on it. Lots of cats. We got that. And Eric, you can have the card and the Pog.
And the Pog.
With a cat for a mere $40 million.
Or best offer.
I have it on good authority. He'll take $39.5.
Oh, look. And breathe easy. Returns are accepted.
Beauty. And it is near mint or better. So the point of this is a couple of things. The point of this is what the fuck? In addition to it, however, I should also point out $40 million. But at least it comes with a meme. So we've got that going for us. So it does have memes. Which, it's the least you can do. At least give us some memes.
Yeah.
The point is, this shit is one of, when you're talking about how many listings eBay has in the trading card category, this is one of them.
Do you think this person happened to list at that price to get their seller limit increased for some odd reason?
Maybe. But I think, look, my point is twofold. Number one, when I saw it, it was so ridiculous that I thought I would share it. But the second reason I shared it is that there are cars legitimately that are on eBay, that are going to stay on eBay, that are never going to be sold to anybody at any time ever. And when you're actually going through, and by the way, this is obviously, an absurdist example. Like, I'm going to the extreme here, but there's plenty of $100 cards that are listed at $1,000 that are never going to sell either, that are more conventional cards. They're not going to sell either. And there's items that are like, again, $50 cards that are there for $250 that maybe that was the comp 2 years ago, but they never updated. So it just sits there rolling through month after month after month. So after a while, eBay has been for a long time clogged up with a bunch of junk that doesn't have any chance of going anywhere. And when people are searching for something, they find stuff like that. Again, this is an extreme example. I don't think too many people are going to look for that and find that, but there is stuff that out there that they might be searching for that it gets clogged up by a bunch of this. So discoverability on eBay is one of the issues that eBay has. And we'll come back to some other issues they have, but I just wanted to share that. So that's my silly card of the week. I think that, but with a bonus pog, for a bargain price, $40 million.
I didn't know we could have bonus pogs, man.
I mean, how do you compete with that?
All right, Eric, what do you got?
Last Monday we did a live for this show, and I brought up, I think it was Monday. We were talking about all sorts of different things, and
it was Monday, yeah.
And someone had asked me if I had ever seen the Tom Selleck Mr. Baseball Upper Deck card, and I hadn't. And I looked it up and purchased it as we were live, and it came in today. And so this is what people were encouraging me to get. You have Tom Selleck playing first base. That's first baseman's mitt. And next to him, in pinstripes, in a Yankees uniform, is the big hurt Frank Thomas.
Look at this guy flexing some baseball knowledge.
And then, if you turn the card over, you now see him, Tom Selleck, and maybe you guys can help me because I don't know the exact thing. I think he's in a Detroit Lions.
So that's a clip. So that's a scene from the movie.
Right.
That's the Dragons from the Japanese team that he played on.
Oh, okay. All right. So that's the Dragon.
Yeah, it's from the film. It's Mr. Baseball. It's when he goes to Japan.
Yes, I love the film. I've seen it many times. I haven't seen it for years, but I wasn't 100% sure about that. Thank you.
I'm pretty sure that's when he goes to Japan. The D should be for the team that he plays for in Japan.
And all-time quote from that movie, I bring it up all the time to people who like baseball, is when he says, "We're not athletes, we're ball players." And exactly. Baseball players are not athletes. So, anyways, this is an Upper Deck 1992 from the film Mr. Baseball. And I think it's unique because, of course, it's from a movie or whatever. But Frank, neither Frank Thomas nor Tom Selleck ever played for the Yankees. So that's pretty unique picture to see Frank on a card in a Yankees uniform.
I think that's a good solid addition. Good solid one.
It did not come with a pog.
Alas. But good. Hopefully you folks enjoyed that. We like bringing that little segment in and having some fun with it on our end. So we all did. So, and you can, feel free to, we did it live last week, but feel free to vote in the comment section of what your favorite silly card was this week. And again, justice for Troy Dan. If you know, you know. Now, let's talk about what the topic was. I did a video on it on the channel this past week, and it was relating to the Burbank sports cards and them announcing, along with Fanatics, and they did it at the National. They announced that they were going to have an exclusive deal that they were going to enter into, and I gave an article from Collect, and then also get linked to the Instagram page where Burbank talked about it as well, briefly announced it. And it was that they were going to do an exclusive where they were going to list their items on the Fanatics Collect platform. Now, there's a couple of things that I'm going to add about the Fanatics Collect platform that I want to talk about. And I'm also going to share some of the comments that I got on it because I got a ton of engagement, a lot of comments, which I do appreciate. But there's certain themes that we were hit on that I definitely want to talk about. Now, a couple of important things. The whole idea with an exclusive, and we'll get into what the implications could be with that because we've got some theories. We don't know what the terms were, but we've got theories and we'll throw some stuff out at you. But one of the key points about an exclusive is that they cite 40 million cards. The reality is that Burbank has more cards than what's listed on eBay today. If you go to the Burbank eBay store right now, you're going to see about 2.4 million listings, give or take, at the time of recording, give or take, which is still a lot, by the way. But I did see some folks that were trying to downplay it, talking about it like, oh, that's not a big deal. It's like, my video, I'm not suggesting to anyone that eBay is shaking in its boots and it's about to collapse under the weight of this tremendous, seismic shift. My point was that's still a lot of listings. It is still a statement from Fanatics to get somebody, because the Fanatics Collect platform was previously PWCC, and when it comes to buy it nows in that section, it is not robust. There's not a lot on there right now. And one of the key things with the platform, I just want to give this up front here. If you want to be a competing platform, that's not necessarily a bad thing for us. And there was some feedback where some folks preferred just using eBay, which is fine. But in that world, then eBay gets to dictate everything to you. They get to decide what the fees are. They get to decide the terms, and they can make life a lot more miserable for you. And I think a lot of them fail to take into account that a lot of us, not everybody, but a lot of us are using eBay not because we like eBay, but because it's the best option out of what's available to get what we want, AKA we want inventory. I want to be able to find certain cards, and a lot of them wind up on eBay. Comps. Right now, what's the standard for comps? eBay provides a lot of that data for a lot of these data tools. It's the basis that a lot of these comps are going. So they serve a purpose in the ecosystem. But everybody talks about competition. When it comes to manufacturers, we need competition in the platform space too. And even a ComC, which has its own niche, is integrated with eBay. So there's still a lot of integration there between those two. So having a legitimate, viable competitor is a good thing. Obviously, Fanatics has a lot of things that people don't like about it, deservedly so. They've earned a lot of that. But they're still one of the few ones who may have the ability to really pose a challenge, because you've got things like My Slabs. You've got, by the way, you can buy cards on Facebook Marketplace. You can buy cards on Facebook groups. You can buy cards directly through Instagram, dealing directly with people. But if you want to locate inventory, eBay is pretty much the easiest way to do it. Well, Burbank bringing over millions of cards, and even potentially more cards than we've seen so far, a bigger inventory immediately gives a little bit of credibility for Fanatics Collect. And for some lower end items, if I can't find them on eBay anymore and I'm searching for them and they're not there, as a collector, I got to go where the cards are. I've used a lot of different platforms, not because I want to use 10 different platforms, but it just makes more sense. Brandon, when we were chatting before we started, brought up Mercari. In Canada, I can't get Mercari. So I had to do it through a friend who was willing to give me a hand and do it. I bought a card from Mercari, and it was a good card for my collection. I actually bought a 1-of-1 for the dentist PC that I always talk about. It was on Mercari. It wasn't available on eBay. It wasn't available. So guess what? If I want that card, eBay's not even an option. They didn't list it on eBay, so I can't buy it there. I bought cards on Facebook Marketplace and on Facebook groups. That's worked for me as well. But I have to go where the cards are. So that's the number one thing I want to make sure we note here. So a lot of people are sitting there going like, oh, but I like using eBay. That's fine. Keep using eBay. But if even a few more sellers move some, they don't have to be exclusive like Burbank. If they move some of their inventory over, well, then what are your choices? Your choices are to hope that somebody lists it on eBay, which maybe they will, maybe they won't, or you just don't get it. If you stick with one platform, then you're kind of stuck. If you're a collector and you're looking for it and it's not there, what are you going to do? A little short-sighted sometimes for folks. So anyway, Brandon, any thoughts?
So yeah, like we discussed before we started recording this, I attempted to comment on your video multiple times. I never actually completed the comment, so I was glad that we could discuss it a little bit. As someone that sells a lot on eBay, I can see both sides to it, both thoughts. It is a lot of volume coming off of eBay, but overall, and we kind of discussed this a little bit before, it's a chunk, but it's not going to like chop their arm off or anything. It's not going to disable eBay. I think this more is going to, and I think this was the point you were trying to make even more so in your video, is this is going to kind of kickstart maybe Fanatics a little bit, because if they are going to try to be serious about the platform that they've acquired, they're going to need some assistance kind of jump starting it a little bit. I think that is part of it. I think the risk is so heavy for Burbank. I mean, I mentioned it when we were talking. The amount of work that had to go into the listings that are on eBay right now, that's a lot of sunk cost now that they're not getting back. Like that time of doing all them listings is going to be lost. And so there had to be something there. And you mentioned that people were saying money and this and that. I don't necessarily think that it's a money situation because obviously Burbank was doing well on eBay. There
Mhm.
had to be something else there for Rob to want to take his inventory
Mhm.
to another platform that has less audience, that's likely going to create less revenue plus more work. There had to be something else there. What that other is, we can speculate, but we don't really know.
Mhm.
Um, I do want to share some numbers though before we get too deep into this.
Sure.
I went on to eBay and take these with a grain of salt because it's not 100% accurate, but just for a kind of a glimpse. According to eBay's sourcing insights, it says there's just under 75 million active listings in the sports card trading singles category. It says there's a 3.23% sell through rate, which, if my math is anywhere near good, that means and they base that on a 90-day period. That means there's about 2.25 million sales across 90 days. So then I went and looked at Burbank, and it says they had 120,000 sales over the 90 days. So when you look at that, 2.25 million, and let's deduct their 120,000, you're still left with 2.125 essentially. So is it going to take a chunk? Sure. Is it going to deplete eBay as a selling site or place to go buy your sports cards? Absolutely not. I mean,
Mhm.
ComC has their own website where you get a discount if you purchase from their site, and they sold over 210,000 in the
Mhm.
last 90 days. So, just for a little bit of reference there and a little bit of like numbers to put into it. And again, these are just rough numbers based on what I could see there, but um, I'll be interested to see what, like, and I know we're not going to know the full details, but there's got to be some kind of, like we discussed, maybe the show or who knows, but
Yeah.
hopefully
I
it
think
works
I
for
think
Rob.
two things that you touched on there. I think because one of the threads in the comments, and I'll get into a couple specific ones here because I'll share kind of the sentiment that came out. Again, thank you everybody for the engagement. There was some really good comments in there and some interesting thoughts to bring up. I think to your point, I think the idea that it's just one thing, maybe, but that would actually be bad business for Rob Veras. That would actually be really like
Yeah.
I would question him if that's all, because the key word here is exclusive, and this is important because I'm making a big distinction between the word between exclusive and what that means versus Fanatics reaching out and said, "Hey, we'd love to have you put some of your inventory on here. Give us a couple 100,000 listings and give us a shot. We can do whatever." And that would be one type of deal. But another entire discussion is exclusive. Exclusive is you sticking your neck out here a lot more. You're really pushing that on, especially since you can expect there's going to be a drop off in your sales simply having less eyeballs just to start. So you're automatically conceding that you're going to see a drop off overnight. The interesting thing about it is that, again, speculation only, speculation hats on. We have no information. If it was just cash, that's not good enough. Again, if it's enough cash, I suppose it could be good enough. If you're going to buy the inventory from me, then so be it. Then I don't really care, whatever. But realistically,
Here's real quick,
go ahead, go ahead.
but before you went too far on that notion of cash. So here's my
Yeah,
question. If Fanatics is just giving him cash, then what would be the damn incentive of him to take and do the work to list the 40 million cards on the website?
yeah.
Like if
But what
you're
I'm saying,
paying me,
is it's
it's
not
like,
enough. You're asking a lot of things if it's just a cash transaction. However, if you put other incentives, and again, we could speculate a million things. They've got a card show. There could be some incentives related to that. You brought up when we were chatting. They've got access to athletes. these card shows could add some premium signers that Fanatics has access to. That could be an incentive, something that I feel like if you're going to do this kind of deal, especially an exclusive, and you're sticking your neck out, you're going to ask for a lot of concessions. You're going to ask for things that go above and beyond just a cash payment. You're going to, favorable terms on these. That's the favorable terms on the selling fee is like the starting point of discussions. eBay will give you favorable terms on the sell. They give favorable terms to consigners. So you don't think, if you're a big volume seller, you don't get favorable. Of course you do. So that's in itself, that's not going to be good enough. You got to sweeten the pot. You got to add some other things to it. And from Fanatics standpoint, what they're getting out of it is they're getting an instant inventory, because I can tell you, so I'll also give some numbers here. Just going to Fanatics Collect right now. I'll just show you guys just so you can see. Obviously, there's the auctions, the weekly, the premiere, all those. But Buy It Nows, there's a Buy It Now section. And that is a category where if you've got, Burbank has a lot of stuff that's Buy It Now, best offer. There's a lot of the items like that are part of their inventory, lower priced items generally. Well, the Buy It Now version of Fanatics Collect right now, as we speak, I've taken all filters off. There's less than 46,000 items here. A good power seller will blow past that in Buy It Nows. Like this is nothing in terms of inventory. Now, you switch it up and you say to yourself, you could add 1 million, 1.5 million, 2 million items worth of inventory, or millions. They talk about 40 million items. Well, there's a possibility they can expand out to more of their inventory. Well, if you go from 46,000 to even 500,000, Brandon, like that's a huge change overnight. A lot of different types of items. It's massive. So anything beyond that, which it seems like they're going to be able to do a lot of that, it immediately changes the context of this. Because if I go searching here right now for stuff, I might find some things, but the amount of stuff I'm going to find is going to be really limited. Even if I look up some of the bigger names, and it's very specific stuff. That's where eBay's strength is. And I just want to make sure we don't lose sight of this. eBay's strength, to your point, eBay is not going to collapse because they lost a seller. Doesn't matter. That's not going to change life. However, if Burbank is able to have some success and sell some items on here, and all it has to do is motivate a couple of sellers to at least be willing to try it as a cross-posting thing, and cross-posting is something that people forget. Cross-posting is an option. You can list on multiple platforms, and people do, and it allows them to be like, wherever it sells, that's where we'll go with. I don't care. So I'm going to list it on both, and maybe I'll adjust the pricing to make it work for me financially. If you buy it on Fanatics, great. I'll still ship it to you. You buy it on eBay, great. I'll still ship it to you. It doesn't make any difference. I don't care as a seller. It makes no difference to me. But if they start selling on there, then those are sales that eBay's not going to get. And those are not exclusives. That isn't required for them. You don't have to get exclusives. You just have to motivate some other sellers. Maybe for them, you give them the favorable terms and say, hey, we'll give you favorable terms. Do you want to cross post on both of these? And if you sell it on ours, you get a couple more percentage points.
Yeah, remove it from platform versus platform, or sales or whatever. Look at the grading space. Look at the shift in grading space, and it all really boiled down to volume. But Fanatics can't become a competitive or a intriguing marketplace for sellers to want to sell their items if they don't have anything to show for. And adding volume of inventory and being able, the one thing unless I'm missing it on there, which is, I obviously am becoming technologically challenged lately. I didn't see anything that showed sales data on there, like any sales history data. I didn't see that on there. So that's one thing I don't like immediately about the site. But if they were to incorporate something like that and show volume, show things are moving, because that's the biggest thing with getting a platform moving. Like, you can get people to list items on there, but they're not going to if they feel like it's going to be a waste of time. So if you get Rob, you get his millions of cards to come over, you start, you implement something that'll show sales data and be like, look, we've sold 20,000 cards in the last 90 days or whatever. It'll start piquing people's interest. And the more you get there, then you'll start getting more of an audience, and it'll start equating to sales. So I think if anything, Fanatics work something out with Burbank more so to get the volume, help them build an infrastructure, expand the lackluster PWCC site, and then make it. I don't think, and hell, who knows, as Fanatics, I don't think their intent would be with the thinking that they're going to overtake eBay, because that's just, I mean, that would be very difficult to do. But
it
I
would be a
do
behavior
think,
shift because eBay's been there too long. They've got a lot of things going for them that have been working for them for a long time. You're asking a lot
right,
because a lot of people and
right.
some of the comments that'll go through actually touch on exactly that thought.
Well, the other thing is like eBay didn't just, make a deal with PSA and obtain gold in for higher end auctions and things like that because they are a fear that losing Burbank is going to take them out of the card selling game. I think this was more of just a move that Fanatics gave something in return to make it worth Rob's time to put in this work, and Rob joined and partnered up exclusively with them to help them build their marketplace.
For sure. And one thing that kind of hits with that, and that the reason I showed you how small that buy it now is right now, it's a chicken or the egg situation. And Eric, I want to get your thought on this. And when it comes to any platform, I don't care what it is. I led off at the beginning. I said, as a collector, if I choose to put blinders on and I just say I'm only going to use this one platform and that's it, I have the potential to miss out on a lot of opportunities to find things for my collection. I've gave a bunch of examples, but like the truth is, if I just did this and I just put blinders on, I'm missing out. That one of one that I talked about, I can't buy it. There's a bunch of other stuff that I've been able to get through Facebook groups. I can't find those. The Burrell will swear by the Facebook groups because he finds things on there. So that market is not available. They're not listing those things on eBay. So, but eBay is still a very valuable tool. I have a ton of saved searches, but eBay is far from perfect. I've got a bunch of safe searches and I've refined some of them over time in different ways to try to really key in on certain things. The other day, I purchased an item and I shared it on my Instagram. There was a patch. I want to say 056 Upper Deck. It was a patch card from Medano. A nice card. But here's the thing. I'll tell you the story of how I found it. I was actually looking at something else. And that card, I don't know how long it had been on eBay. It had completely evaded all my safe searches. But one of my save searches is literally new stuff. So somebody lists it, and I check that save search every day. I've been checking it every day for years. So I have no idea when that. I was actually looking at something else, and you know how they sometimes will have like other items you may be interested in. It was literally right there. I saw the picture of it, and I'm sitting there like, how on earth? It wasn't a misspelling of the name. It wasn't anything funky. As far as I could tell, it was listed perfectly normally, and it completely evaded all my safe searches. Everything. And it was a buy it now at a price that was set at a level where it was an insta hit buy it now. Discoverability. eBay's got all this stuff. And somebody who has multiple save searches for Medano in different combinations and variations, couldn't find the damn thing. I found it by accident. It was a total fluke.
Well, we're an hour in. And since you mentioned save searches, I just want to mention this real quick. So if people make it this far, feel free to troll me in the comments. Up until about a month ago, I had several cards, specific things, searches, Michael Taylor 101s, all of these things that I had set for save searches. And I always wondered why I never got notified of any new cards. I was maybe a month ago, years old, when I realized that if you click save search while you're on the completed listings, it saves the completed listings and doesn't actually save the new listings. And so I never knew why in the hell I wasn't getting notified of new listings.
Hold on.
So,
a rare appearance from Ted DiBiase on the podcast, but it was warranted.
Yeah, I think so.
That's why I said let me step in, and we're at the hour mark. If anybody's still hanging around, feel free to let me have it. But yes, for many, 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 many years, I have had my save searches, and I had done them while I was looking at completed listings, and so I was getting notified of nothing.
Sure.
Oh.
But I think, and thank you for sharing the story. It was very entertaining. But I think, though, a key to this is my point that I was making earlier. And I think you got the gist of what I was saying with it, Eric, as well. eBay is not the platform we love. We're not loyal to eBay because they're awesome. As a seller, they're a frustration for me. As a buyer, they're a frustration. Again, eBay, in theory, wants me to buy things because then they make a percentage of the sale. In theory, they want me to buy. Why am I having to work this hard to find something that I actually am trying to collect? And I found it was an accident. It was a total fluke. I missed it with all those save searches and everything. And discoverability is a pain in the ass. I type in stuff and I don't get the thing that I'm looking for.
Right.
And then one day by accident, I find it. Like, that's a card out of 15. It's a tough one that dried up a lot in a lot of cases years ago. It's a great addition to the collection, and it complements the other one that I've got the little set of the two of them now that I've been looking for since 2005. But it was a fluke. It was an accident. Otherwise, I would still to this very day not have the other one. So if I'm actively searching, and I'm pretty good at it, I've had an account since 98, so I'm pretty good at following exactly how to find. I do my best, but even still, stuff falls through the cracks. But as a seller, that's frustrating too, because then that means they can't find your stuff. And there's plenty of, again, as wonderful as that card was that I showed you for $40 million, shit like that is clogging up the platform. That stuff that will never sell. It's a complete waste of space. Yeah, they're listings, but they may as well not count. I could delete them and no one would know any difference because they're irrelevant. Those listings don't matter. But then when I'm searching for something that I actually want, sometimes I struggle to locate it. So if somebody else could offer, heaven forbid, a legitimate alternative, that would be wonderful. But I get the idea that some people, there was the, I think Zach, who is a regular commenter out here, who basically says, I think he led with, I hate change. Here we go. Literally, the first 3 words, I hate change. Fair enough. I like scrolling for eBay for things I don't even think to check auction houses. I'm not registered for any of them. I need to look into it. Completely fair. Completely valid comment. I totally understand. Another contrast to that, again, there were great comments, so I want to highlight a few. Tom here says, I will 100% start searching on Fanatics Collect once they start getting mass listings. And this is an important point. So there are some folks that will struggle with it and don't want to look at it, and that's fine. But there are other folks that like chicken or the egg. Even I, who have paid attention to PWCC and bought stuff on there and everything, but the weekly auctions, a lot of times there isn't stuff that's interesting to me. So I don't check it every week because a lot of times I find nothing. There's just not a lot of volume. The buy it now wasn't even worth me looking at because there was nothing there of value or nothing there of interest. All you have to do is put some stuff there. Well, Burbank has stuff that I will buy on occasion. It's low-end stuff, but stuff I'll buy. Well, then that means I have to include it as part of my rotation because I may very well find things that are of interest to me. It automatically forces me to at least look at the platform. That's all it would take. More eyeballs, more stuff sells, more sellers are like, well, at the very least, it's worth a couple of listings. May as well, worst case scenario, it sells on eBay. But even if they do the cross-posting thing, that puts more listings on there and therefore gives more people a reason to even look at it. So that's all it would take. eBay is not going anywhere today or tomorrow. But all it would take is enough people to at least put some stuff on there and people to find some stuff on there. I can tell you, and I'll pull up the examples in a minute. I'm looking at some stuff right now that has been pulled off of eBay prior that is actually sitting on here that I had no idea. I thought it was gone, and I actually found it on Fanatics Collect. I didn't even think to look there. I never even considered looking for it there. And yet it was sitting right there. And I was like, what the hell? That thing? I thought that thing was sold or gone or whatever. Nope, it's sitting right there. Never even thought to look.
What I think about this is, and you kind of started off by saying this, competition is good for the consumer. Okay. Will, this move, even get a blip on eBay's radar? Probably not. Okay.
Especially today. Right now, it's not going to change life.
However, they move over to Fanatics. Some time goes by, five months from now, And other major, sellers see that they are having success over at Fanatics. They're getting a bigger chunk of the pie, possibly. There's deals in place. Who knows? And all of a sudden, just throwing out the name because it's the biggest one on there, all of a sudden, Fanatics and Probstein start talking. And they go, this is what we can do for you. You can get a bigger piece of the pie. Go talk to, Burbank. Ask them how they like dealing with us. And now all of a sudden, Probstein moves over.
Mm-hmm.
Now eBay's going, wait a minute. Our number one guy, our number, guy, we're pay attention here.
Yeah.
And either eBay has to match what's going on at Fanatics and or start changing a lot of their policies that we, the consumer and / seller, hate about eBay.
But Eric, that is exactly the point that I wanted to make, that I tried to make into the video. I said, look, guys, I'm not saying that eBay, and I think people misunderstood. I don't care one way or the other. I'll repeat again. I've had an eBay account since '98. They're a necessary evil for what I try to do. They still have a lot of stuff that I'm looking for. So they still serve a purpose for me, and I'll use them as long as they continue to be useful. But when they outlive their usefulness, I would ditch them like a bad habit today. But they're still useful. But the idea is I'm also a seller on there. And if anything prompted them to, heaven forbid, knock a couple of percentage points off the seller fee, oh my goodness, what an idea. Well, maybe that would motivate me to list a couple more things. That wouldn't be a terrible thing. It would be good on our end, and in turn would get more stuff on the platform too. So this could be a win-win if all it does is force them to compete a little. That's it.
As someone that sells, I don't sell Burbank numbers, in cards or whatever, but I sell a lot of stuff on eBay, and that's what I do to, pay my bills. I don't ever see myself. I would never see myself going exclusive in this scenario to another platform. And it doesn't matter, cards or t-shirts, shoes, whatever. I don't see myself going anywhere else. And there's a reason why. And it's things that, we talked about maybe the benefits that Burbank might get out of this with whatever agreement they came to. People complain and see the fee structure of eBay and they think it's a lot of money. But when I've actually done a video over on my reseller channel, breaking down the fees of other platforms, mostly outside of Card Talk, but comparing fees, even Whatnot, you might get a little bit cheaper fee if you sold on Whatnot, but you're going to get less money for your items. So eBay's fees are, believe it or not, cheaper than the other platforms. Now, obviously, if Fanatics is offering 6% on cards under $100, okay, that's going to beat them there. But there's a lot of things that come with the eBay platform that you're not getting with the other selling sites. You're not getting your seller hub with all of the detailed reports and everything of your sales day by day, month to month, year to year. You're not getting the Terapeak for all the 3 years of sales data. You're not getting all of that stuff banked in with all of the other, some of the platforms may offer pieces here or there, but I think as a whole, eBay is offering you as a seller so many tools. I just said they have sourcing insights telling you how much is listed on the platform, what the sell-through rates are. They point out what good opportunities are at on different categories. There's a lot of stuff there that other platforms aren't offering you. So it's just something to think
Eric,
about.
did you hear that? Did you hear that little buzz in the background?
Yeah.
What's that? Breaking news. eBay changes seller fees, increases it to 447%. What? Oh, man. They're like, good point, man. We offer them a lot. You should be paying us to sell things on here.
Yeah.
You're making some good points. I'm liking your points. I'm just having a little fun with it. But I'm just hearing off in the distance somewhere was like, we should raise our fees. That man's it's like that
They just
Confederate
did.
soldier is making some good points. I like the cut of his jib. I
Yeah.
like the cut of
No,
his
but I
jib.
mean, does it make sense what I'm saying? They offer sellers a
There is a reason that platform. Look, as long
the customer
as, so
service.
I've heard other people. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I've listened to some folks that have made a similar point to it, and the way they summarize it, and to your point, is that as long as the juice is worth the squeeze, that's the reason why a lot of people are still using eBay. That's the way I put it. Yes, the fees, we would love the fees to be lower, but there is enough there, and again, enough eyeballs and enough transaction thing, even though again it's not ideal, discoverability is not ideal. It could be better, much better. But the fact that there are enough people on there that can buy stuff, that will pay for stuff, and again, there are issues with that too. But because there are enough people and we are able to sell enough things, it keeps the ecosystem going. Even with silliness, even with all the other issues and everything, that's what makes it being tough, being a competing platform. A lot of the other ones exist, but they haven't been able to really get a foothold because it's tricky to convince people to change or to convince people to look into something else. And that's why I said, as a collector, unfortunately, we have to be flexible. If you're a collector, if you're a player collector, a team collector, whatever, and you're looking for certain specific things, you got to go to where they are. That means sometimes it's card shows. That means sometimes it's eBay. That means sometimes it's another platform. I wish it was all available in one spot and you could always get it there and it was easy and that would be awesome. It's not the case. So I have to be a little bit more flexible, but if you don't want to be, that's completely fine, but just be okay with sometimes you won't be able to find it where you want to find it. There was another one here that I wanted to touch on, a couple of specific ones. Here, this one was saying, no one will be switching to Fanatics because of Burbank. And it's like, and I agree, but that wasn't the point of my video. That's why people sometimes hear what they want to hear. It's like, I'm not telling you that everybody's going to switch to Fanatics because of Burbank. I'm saying interesting. I'm saying it is interesting and creates a potential for an interesting dynamic. My preference would be for both platforms to have a lot of stuff on them, and for that in turn to force them to be more competitive, to give us all those wonderful things that Brandon was talking about, but also charge us a lower fee and just be content in selling more stuff. That would be ideal. That would be great. And make discoverability better. So when somebody types it in, they can actually find the things. And when the save searches go, it actually gets you the stuff you're looking for. That would all be awesome.
And let's take a look at what people hate about eBay the most, right? And it's the sellers that hate it the most. They put something on, they do a good job. They label everything, take all the pictures necessary. They do everything, dot their I's, cross their T's. Everything's great. Some clown buys it, and then they get I'm down on my luck. Oh, my kid bid on this. She's 3. I bought another one cheaper. Can I have my money back? You go, no, this is a contract. I held up my end. And then eBay goes, nope, give him his money back. And they go into your account behind your back, even though you said no or have no returns put on your eBay account. And they go behind your back, steal your money, and give it to the scumbag consumer. So until eBay stops doing that and alienating their sellers, because listen, if there's no sellers, it's like the sellers come first. Okay, in this process, because if there's no sellers, there's nothing to buy, so there's no consumers. The consumers weren't there first. So why does this company continue to screw over its sellers? And as someone who ran a major eBay account for almost 2 years, pretty much on my own, I dealt with this constantly to the point where I said, I can't do this anymore. I am getting angry about, from work, the ridiculousness of the consumers and the things that they demanded and tried to return or lied about, or, and then they can leave you negative feedback, but you can't leave them negative feedback. And it's ridiculous. Even today, my boss yelled out in the middle of the store, I'm about to get off of eBay. Now, he's not. He's making too much money on eBay. But the frustration level of a consumer complaining about something, and I'm being honest, it's a crazy person, right? It is everything they got is what we promised. I give you my word on that. And what's eBay going to do? Go into our account, steal our money, give it to them, and then make us pay for the shipping to come back, even though it says no returns. They have to fix that, because so many sellers.
That's not exactly how it works, but I mean,
listen, I know you're doing this all the time. I know you're doing this every day. I haven't done it in a few years now, but the frustration level I had every day dealing with the consumers, and then having eBay never backing you up when it's clear that you are in the right as the seller. Smaller sellers, Joe average seller, is going to be like, I don't need this crap. I'll find another outlet. I'm sure over the many years of eBay, thousands upon thousands of people said, I'm not selling on this platform anymore. This is a joke. And I've walked away.
Or, by the way, they'll put on their seller handle, so-and-so on IG. Like their seller handle will be like, they're basically telling you how to contact them on Instagram, so you can go. Not that anyone would do that.
No.
But their username is like specifically like, this is our Instagram. And then funny enough, if someone wants to reach out, suddenly the listing goes off, seller doesn't have it anymore, issue with the listing, and it just disappears. It vanishes. But that wouldn't be a thing if people weren't looking to skirt those fees. And they want the advertisement of having the listing, but then they're willing to work something offline. Again, hypothetically speaking, not that anyone would ever do that.
That's, right. But that's a whole nother thing than what I was just complaining about. But
no, I understand. But what I'm getting at is
that's built in. Shady. That's, to be honest, I mean, that's shady sellers doing that.
Yes. But it's also indicative, Eric, of people that are using eBay because they have to. Yeah. If you gave them a choice, they would rather not.
Yeah. I don't like them.
Yeah. And that's an interesting place for the market leader to be in. No one actually wants to use you.
Yeah.
And if you gave us a legitimate, better alternative, it could be 5% better, and we would be happy to ditch you.
Yeah.
At a moment's notice.
In time.
So
it might be Fanatics Collect in time.
I have a question. Since we're talking about fees and eBay and Fanatics Collect and everything, I was on here because I was trying to see just what are they offering people, okay? And we mentioned the 6% for things $119.99 and below, okay?
Yeah, and now this is for the rank and file person submitting, not somebody getting the super special common user stuff deal.
Right,
but just
but we got to look at it in the bigger picture. If we think that they're because we talked about maybe people coming over to try them or whatever. But for $120 to $11.99.99, the fee goes up to 13.33%. And then it scales down. It goes to 11.67 from 1,200 to 6,000, and it goes down. But now there's something here that they say simplified lower fees, but there's small text here that says
it's the 15% if you go over comps.
Seller's fee will be applied to listings of less than $120 that are priced at 20% over market value. But they don't show you their sales history. So who are they considering market value?
No, I get you. That was one of the first criticisms that came out with it. Now, I do think, though, that the majority of people that are going to be I think the rank and file person is not going to be on their listing 2 or 3 items. I don't think that's going to be a thing. And I also think that if you're going to be, I think what it's basically designed to do is to prevent what you get today, which is you get somebody on there that gets a $50 item and tries to put 100 to 110. Because it's like, dude, that's not really what the market value is. You basically con somebody and then pay your 15% because you already made more than what the reality is. If somebody buys it, then you're paying 15. But if nobody buys it, then you're not being charged anything. So $50 card, make it $1,000 if it makes you happy, but you're not selling it. And given the way that it's structured right now, nobody's going to do anything with that. I don't think a lot of those are going to get listed because for a lot of those folks doing those, it's not worth it. Because right now, as we already discussed, the platform's too small. Even after Burbank does their thing, it's going to work for Burbank. But for somebody else that sells like a $20 or $50 card or something, it's not going to be worth them just randomly listing it unless they're cross-posting. That's why I said, I think for a bunch of folks, even the Pro Scene example, the other one I would give you also is consigners. Consigners are a big part of what eBay structure is right now, like a Slab Sharks or a lot of those, 4 Sharp Corners. 4 Sharp Corners does a lot of consignment. And they get favorable fees, favorable rates, and in turn can give you, you're like, but it's like 13, 14%. Why can 4 Sharp Corners give it to me like at 10%? Well, because 4 Sharp Corners is getting it at actually a much lower rate. So for them, they'll pass along some of the savings to you. So you're actually getting a higher percentage of your item. And they can do that because they're getting a better deal. But imagine you're a consigner. Go ahead.
Well, no, I didn't want to interrupt you there. I was just, this is very interesting because we were sitting there talking about the fees.
Yep.
And so eBay it looks like that Fanatics could be good. Really just up to $120. I mean, to be honest, because eBay is 12.35% up to $2,500. After that, it's only 2.35% on anything over 2,500. Fanatics at so 120 to 1,200 is 13.33. 1,200 to 6,000, 11.67. So maybe 1,200 to 2,500. They have a slight lesser fee. But anything over that, eBay is 2.35% of the remainder portion. So, like, yeah, when you get up to the higher level, the cheapest is if a card goes for 1.2 million or above, the seller fee is 4.17% on Fanatics, but that still is, it would still be less at the 2.35. So
just to be clear, so I don't want to get us confused here. It's 2.35 on the money of the sale over the
2,500.
Well,
2,500.
So I'm looking at right now eBay seller fees. So let's see, selling fees, 20-minute article. Oh, sorry, this is for .ca. But anyway, the threshold actually on .ca is 7,500. It's actually higher.
But what they do 2,500 on .com. It's 12.35% on total amount of the sale up to $2,500 calculated per item. 2.35% on the portion of the sale over 2,500.
Yeah, so you're still going to get charged the 12% at the beginning, the 12% on that 2,500, and then the 2 on the above.
So really, Fanatics is only beating them in the sub $120 game, really.
I think for what they're shooting for right now, I think that's probably what makes sense because they don't have the lower end. On the higher end, they're already getting stuff listed. And again, if you're a bigger seller, you can actually negotiate your rate. If you're selling a bigger item, that's where you go in and negotiate your rate. Whatever's posted there, you're probably not going to get the posted rate. It's like getting your mortgage. This is the posted rate, but what's my rate? When you go into the bank and you're like, I understand what it says. What can you give me? And then the negotiation begins. And that's where you find out what the real numbers are, not the ones that are posted. But I think the idea here is to try to encourage on that lower end, because right now the lower end is what they don't have. Because right now they can sell some higher end items, but they don't have that lower end. The point that I was finishing off on is for a consigner, and I use Slab Sharks as an example, and obviously they have favorable rates on eBay. But who's to say? Again, I'm emphasizing the exclusive part. Nobody else needs to be exclusive. The Burbank thing, might make sense for them based on whatever deal they cut. But for anybody else, you don't have to be exclusive. But what if you're a consigner? So, Brandon, I'll just use an example here. What if you're a consigner and your service is that you will list the stuff for people right now and you offer them at whatever rate? Is it a bad value add to say, by the way, we're going to list it on multiple platforms? And then wherever it sells, it sells. It's not a bad thing. Like, it doesn't hurt the value proposition to say, by the way, I'm not going to charge you any extra, but if it sells on this platform, great. If it sells on this platform, great. You're still going to get paid, but I'll listen to multiple platforms to get it out to more people.
Cross-listing has become a very, very, very popular thing, not just in cards, but in reselling in general.
Exactly.
The only thing with that, from what I've looked at, I've not done it. I tried Flip once, and it used to be free. All of the cross-listers have a monthly fee. They all have a restriction, which is usually very low on how many items you can cross-post. And the biggest thing is inventory management.
It is.
You start getting if a consignor said, hey, we're going to list your stuff everywhere, they would have to I would say they would want to design an internal cross-listing program that they are confident with, because
you got to
start
take it down
running
once
into
it's sold.
inventory
You got to take it
problems.
down once it's sold. Yeah.
Yeah, and some of them have started implementing the automatic delister, but they're still like very quirky. And there's people that are like losing their top rated seller and everything else because they're having to cancel orders because they sell the damn item on Mercari and then it sells on eBay and they realize, oh, I don't have it anymore. So there's a lot of that going on, but it is a very popular thing. If somebody could do that as a consignor and actually keep up with it, I'd be pretty damn impressed. I mean,
the point is,
ComC would have an internal thing. They have to.
But it would be a pretty good selling point if you could do it successfully. If you can manage the inventory correctly, it's a value add that would make you more attractive to. Because when you offer more options, the consumer, like I think people forget. Let me just summarize it this way, and then we can give any last thoughts here. I'll just summarize it this way. As a consumer, you shouldn't care, really. It doesn't matter to you today. The point is, we talk about everywhere else you want competition. Well, here, competition would also be helpful. Competition is good. So hopefully, again, cross our fingers, we'll see what happens. If they fail, they fail. If it works, it works. There's a lot of other ones who've also tried. And the other piece is, as a seller, we also want competition, because as a seller, I don't care what platform it sells on as long as I get my money. That's all I care about. And as a buyer, I don't care where I'm buying it from as long as I get my card and I get a price I'm happy with. Those are the only things I care about.
Does this potentially send a kick to a company we talk to quite often, ye old Beckett?
Oh, as part of the exclusive deal, Beckett lost Burbanks listings as well.
That's what I'm like saying, like making Fanatics more relevant. Is this more damning to Beckett than eBay? Should they be more concerned than eBay?
Yes.
Oh, Beckett definitely lost more. Yeah. By comparison between the two, Beckett has lost more because for them, it's not like they have a lot going on anyway. But what's interesting, you know what's funny? Since you brought it up, the irony of this is that there's a lot of people who probably don't know Beckett has a marketplace. And by the way, it's not a great platform. It's not a great thing. But you know what's funny though? If you're sneaky and you really pay attention, there are cards that sneak on there that also are not on eBay, because I've definitely been able to purchase some items for my collection. Again, that's where, if you are willing to go digging into the depths of the dark web of the hobby and find some of these damn things.
Nope. Don't want it that
I have found items for the collection that were not on eBay. They were just not available. This dealer, whoever, decided that they were just going to list it on Beckett. And it was probably sitting there for years until I came by and go, add to cart. I will take that. Thanks very much. Ship it out to me. And it worked out, and I got my stuff and I was happy. And I added I even added some stuff from the cup, some numbered out of 25, some of the base card parallels and everything that are numbered to 25. And it was like, I wasn't sitting on eBay, and I just picked it up, and I was able to pick it up dirt cheap. They didn't even price it like correctly. So I was like, okay. And I got what I asked for. I got what I paid for, and it was all good. But yeah, Beckett doesn't have a lot going for it, and then just lose more inventory. Makes it even less relevant. It's got that same issue that we were talking about. It's got less stuff on there, but people also aren't paying attention to it. It's out of sight, out of mind, and it's hard to get to. It's clunky. You add all those elements to it, it's not a good experience, and that means more people are not even going to check.
Yeah, that I wasn't thinking that aspect of it, but since we were talking about marketplaces, and let's be real, there's marketplaces out there that the three of us combined probably have never heard of, or have never been on and used, because there's just that amount of cards out there in existence, and people list them in so many different places. So, as I said earlier, eBay's showing that there's like close to 75 million listings on there. I don't know that even if Burbank gets 40 million up in a relatively quick time on Fanatics, there's still, the I would say the quality also is important. You can throw 40 million at the wall, but if only 1 million are things anybody's really wanting, it doesn't really matter either. But it'll be interesting to see. I think it's good for everybody. It's interesting the amount of things Fanatics is sticking their hands in. I mean, I guess they're sticking to what they said. They wanted to be involved in all of it, whether that's good or bad in the long run of the hobby itself. I seen something in the Discord last night. I guess they swept another licensing right. They got Marvel away
Yeah,
from
that's
Upper
the
Deck.
word. So we can touch on that for just so let me close up this topic and we can touch on that for just a minute. But bottom line, I'm interested. I'm in the wait and see. A bunch of the comments were wait and see, which I think is correct. That's the correct,
Yeah,
tact for it. Like there's no rush. As a consumer, you don't need to worry about it. It's also not going to change overnight. They already said themselves in the article and everything that they're going to have to phase it in because that's a lot of listings. You got even if they got a great bulk submitter and whatever, it's going to take them a while to set up. They got to figure out the template or whatever they need to do to get all these listings put up. Whatever it is, they're going to have to figure out that logistics. So it's not going to change today or tomorrow. And by the way, those auctions, that was why when I was talking about one of the comments was saying like, oh, maybe eBay wants this, like then eBay would have pulled 2.4 million listings. They didn't. You can go buy from Burbank right now on eBay. The stuff's still there. So it will more than likely get phased out over the next weeks and months as it gets phased into the other place. Jay had a good comment, though. I did laugh. He goes, ho hum, Burbank doesn't do vintage non-sports. If they did, that would be fascinating. I did enjoy that Jay throws in his vintage non-sports. But I said, I don't think the vintage non-sport category is going to move the needle for either one of them, Jay. Sorry. Sorry, my dude. I don't think that's going to be the key to this whole thing.
No.
But I appreciate the comment all the same.
Yeah.
But bottom line is that I want to see what happens with it. I don't expect the Burbank thing is not going to change life for eBay today. What's going to be interesting is if anyone else follows suit, not with an exclusive necessarily, but if any of the Probesteins or any of the other consigners decide to put a couple of listings on there, and that would add a little bit more to quality, to your point. Because if we get a little bit of quality and quantity, and we start getting some stuff on that platform that is not on eBay, that would make it a little bit more interesting. Because then we find some stuff that maybe as a collector you're looking. Again, I'm still looking at this from a collector lens. I don't care which platform it is.
Right.
Do you have the stuff?
Yeah.
And can I get the stuff at a price that I'm okay with? Then great. I've had to go in a lot of different random platforms. We've named off a bunch of them, and I bought from pretty much all of them.
That's all that matters.
Yeah. And it's a lot of work. And I don't wish it on anybody. I would love, Brandon, for there to be one platform to rule them all, but we don't have one. We've got a very powerful one, but it's not the one to rule them all.
There would be an interesting tech idea for old Geoff.
Get the big universal search going so that you can find your damn stuff. That would be nice.
Yep.
Yeah. I know there's some platforms that tried to do that, but it didn't ever work out. Never got there. But let me touch on that since you mentioned it, because I think that's I think it's interesting. So it's still rumor mill. Just to be clear, it's still rumor mill territory. But the word coming out of San Diego Comic-Con and also from Fanatics, from the National, was that it seems it's rumblings are out there that Fanatics may have gobbled up another license in the Marvels. And in that case, that's interesting because obviously Upper Deck would be losing that. And then Upper Deck did get DC, which might be a way of kind of offsetting. So you're going to get your Superman and your Batman, which is good. But then you're losing your Spider-Man, your whatever. So you're kind of you're kind of trading off. Ideally, you'd want both of those licenses because then you got the comic world covered for the most part. But that would be another one. But that's another shot across the bow at Upper Deck because I know they were trying to release some stuff and they had sets and everything that they were doing some stuff with. And then you lose Wolverine, you lose Hulk, you lose all those ones. So it's kind of interesting.
Well, look at all of the. I think the interesting move of it is the PMGs and the little push that they got in that Marvel community, and then they would be no more. So that would be an interesting. It'll be interesting to see the reactions if it becomes official or whatever, and the folks that were into the PMG side of things and everything else. What does it do to that market?
Absolutely. But then now you move on to superfractors. Hey, look at the upside. Think about it. Eric, the Punisher superfractor, maybe 9.
That sounds good. I like that.
Just saying if you want to get all fancy.
I do dabble in the superhero world. I don't live in it, but I dabble. I just picked this up. This is brand new to the collection, unopened, still sealed in the bag. This is all part of the Death of Superman. And this is I think this is the Return of Superman. From after he comes back from the dead. So the black one I have with the bloody Superman symbol. And then we got this. The Return.
I dabble in them too.
Yep. Venom. All right.
Now I have a valid question here, Eric. So do you think that given that Superman died and then came back, so is he more Jesus or a zombie?
I think I'm not going to answer that question. That's what I think.
I'm just saying, like that death stuck like a Jason Voorhees death or a Michael Myers death. Like it was like, yeah, he died. Sure, he did.
I'm not going to answer that because John Lennon once answered that question, and it didn't go well for him.
It sounds like he was watering his lawn, minding his own business.
You know your Beatles history, and John Lennon, made a comment about the Beatles being compared to Jesus, and that was a long time ago before the interwebs, and it didn't go well. So I'm staying away from that question.
All because you're hiding from Jesus.
Whatever.
Jesus is a vengeful guy. This is truth. All right. So on that bombshell, Eric evading the question is always Brandon. Eric evading the question. We're going to move on.
Not getting into that.
So we'll see. I will be curious to see, even though the comics is not my lane, I will be curious if that becomes official, because I think that will be interesting, because that is going to be a big deal for the comic folk, especially the comic folks collecting the cards, because that's going to be a big change. And it is unfortunate for Upper Deck because right now they're still kind of trying to find their way with their own licenses. They got their own stuff and there's some questions. Maybe this will stop distracting y'all and you can finally release the damn AEW set. To whom it may concern, I'm not isolating anyone in particular. Just throwing out there. Someone whose name rhymes with Willie.
Willie? Oh.
Just
Willie Cheerio? Was his name Willie Cheerios?
Maybe. Just maybe. I'm just putting it out there into the world. But anyway. So, great conversation, gentlemen. Thank you for that. Again, I want to emphasize what we said earlier. So, number one, if you enjoyed the National, good for you. We're still gonna have our fun with it either way. Just to let you know, I'm never gonna feel bad. I don't really care.
It's all tongue in cheek.
Yeah, we're having our fun with it either way. But and second, as far as the Fanatics, eBay, and whatever, eBay will still be here tomorrow. No, don't panic in the streets. Calmness, Vancouver. You don't need to riot on this one. Calm down. Put the rioting sticks down.
Yeah, they don't care.
It'll be fine. It'll all be fine.
Anything.
But I am hoping that we can see some competition. I want to see some friendly competition or unfriendly. Like I still want to see some competition. Get in the ring and fight like gladiators, for our amusement.
Yes.
And if we can get a couple points off those selling fees, that'd be really great. That'd be really awesome. Don't listen to Brandon. Don't increase the selling fees to 547% of sale price. Don't do it.
No.
eBay, I'm not listening to this man. I'm not listening to Civil War vet. I think it's a ripoff, and I want a cheaper rate. Okay, just cheaper rate.
Hey,
So don't listen to this.
but as you mentioned something before we started recording, always remember though, those fees are tax deductible.
That's our saving grace. That's saving grace. I guess that'll have to do. But anyway, all right. More videos coming up on the channel. Live streams on Fridays at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll be back for the regular episode. We'll have some fun, and we'll see what comes in the fallout now that we've completed the Nationals. I'm going to pluralize it because I can. And then weeks away from now, we'll have the Fanatics Fest. What's the damn thing called? Fanatics Fest? It's called something
I
else?
think so.
Okay,
I
whatever.
think it's Fanatic Fest, yeah.
I'm still curious. I am curious, so I would love to see it. And we also know I think Brad and Sherry might be going to that one as well. So we may get a compare and contrast when the time comes. So that'd be kind of fun, hopefully.
I hope Sherry has a wonderful time.
Well, I'm going to check in with Sherry because I did check in with Brad and I think he was keeling over dying. And now I'm going to check in with Sherry to see how she was doing. And we'll see how they managed. And I'm also curious how many things they partook in because they are morning people. So I'm curious if they went to any of the trade nights or anything else. And if they took advantage of any of that stuff. I'm sure that they were involved with some of the PSA items because obviously PSA was there and some shaking hands, kissing babies. There would have been some of that involved. But I'm curious what, if anything else, they were able to partake in during the show. And also what their impressions were from the convention center, because that'll be a different vantage point, boots on the ground, and see how they perceived it from their vantage point. So I think that'll be interesting. So hopefully we'll cross our fingers and maybe we'll get a taste of that. If we do, maybe it'll be AMG Collectibles, amgcollectibles.ca. So YouTube, check out the YouTube channel. We'll have a podcast episode that will drop. This will drop on Tuesday, and that will drop later on Tuesday. So also that episode, we'll see. And if they're around, I'll ask some questions, and we'll see if we can get to the bottom of some of that and get some other impressions from some other folks who were, in fact, at the National. So we can check that out. So for Brandon, Bobbles and Ball Cards, and known associate of 540 Flips, who is here to praise the eBay overlords and demand higher fees. Because honestly, the current fees are a bargain.
What an ass.
And for all the eBay overlords give us, honestly, we are stealing from them. Per Brandon. This is what I heard earlier.
What?
That's what I heard.
Ass.
And Eric down here, who is a big proponent of fees without representation. Big fan of that. Big time. That's what we need in our world. More fees. We've got that. Sandra Sador, and you can send your hate mail to Sandra Sador on Instagram. As you know. And we appreciate the engagement. If you want to leave any comments or any thoughts on any of the stuff we talked about, if you want to complain, if you went to the National and want to complain that we denounced it, I'm going to do it anyway, just to let you know. But hey, you're still welcome to engage. Feel free to do it in the comments, but also make sure to hit the like button because Eric likes that. So that's it for us, episode 87. Thank you for checking it out. We will catch you in the next one.